The Kansas Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired was founded in 1920. The Kansas Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired is celebrating its 100th anniversary. We have captured the life stories of some of our members, talking about the barriers they have had to face in terms both of discrimination and in employment situations.
My name's Bill Moore. My mom had a brother named Billy and one named Ray, and their last name was Smith, but I got the name Billy Ray. And I didn't like that when I was in high school, but I'm over it now. But my name's Bill Moore. I went to high school in Holton, Kansas. It's like 30 miles north of Topeka, and I was raised on a farm about 10 miles east of there. And I had total vision till 1987, and I had a gunshot wound, and I lost my vision. I went from total vision to no vision. And in fact, I was in intensive care for 2 weeks before I realized I was even blind. But anyway, I think about the people who have talked before me here, and I sat around thinking all the things I was going to say, and to make a long story short, I might just not say anything and go back over and sit down. But to make a long story short, obviously I'm not going to tell it, but I'm up here, so.
Just one moment here.
But anyway, I'm going to talk for about 10 minutes, I think. But, I'm thinking of Ann Byington. She was one of the first. I'd never talked to a blind person before, and then Ann came to the hospital where I was at, and then I got into the rehab center for the blind in like 1988, and I was there for maybe a year to a year and a half, and then I went to live at the Harrison Apartments where they use for training for people who were blind. And while I was there, excuse me, while I was there, I met Hazel Blankenship, and she had a woman that was working for her named Hermione. And Hermione, I met Hermione, and she worked at KABVI. And she asked me if I could go out and volunteer or go see where she worked one time. So I went out there, and then I found out I could do some of the work that they do, and I volunteered for 2 years. And then there was another woman that was going to become a respiratory therapist, and she wanted somebody to fill in her job for 2 days, and so they hired me to work there. And it was a temporary job, and then one thing led to another, and I got into doing got in as full-time with the benefits and such things. But what I do at KABVI is I make parts.
I'm sorry, what is KABVI?
Kansas Neurological Institute.
Okay.
Yeah, the Kansas Neurological Institute. And, but anyway.
What you do at KABVI is?
Yes, I have a computer there with JAWS on it, the screen reading program, and I keep the records on a database for all the work done in our department. Then also I make parts for wheelchairs. They cut it out, and then I take all the sharp edges off and around the corners. And I brought something with me today, so well, first I'll tell about this board. I'm gonna stand up because I have to do this. I got a board that they ripped down. It was a 2x4, and they were using plywood, like 3/4 inch plywood or 1/2 inch plywood, and it's the same length. And they were making these boards had something to do with measuring the angle of the beds when they were tilted for the people who lived at KABVI. And I had to take all the sharp edges and make them smooth. Well, the last one I did was made out of a 2x2, which was a 2x4 that was ripped down the middle. And I made this board. When I got done, they didn't need to use it, so I just kind of use it now. And I've been having back trouble, so I take a hold of each end now, and I can put it like this, and it makes a real good thing to make me so I can massage my back. And it actually helps and works. But anyway, but I brought that, and is it all right if I just pass this board around so people can see what I'm talking about if they're blind, they can't see it? Michael?
He's got it.
Is that Kathy?
Yeah.
Can somebody hand this to Kathy so she knows what I'm talking about?
I think I've seen it.
Maybe. Anyway, now I'm going to tell about this parts that I make for the wheelchairs at KABVI. This is a piece of ABS, a piece of black plastic, and they cut it out, and it's called a backboard. And they attach this backboard, and then they put a hinge down here at the bottom, 2 hinges, and then they also put a seat board on there, and it sets into the wheelchair frame. And then also on this side of or on each one of the sides, they put a piece of plywood, the same shape, same size, and they attach it to this black plastic, and they put foam on it, and then vinyl or a covering, and that's their back, and they call it a back pad. And then they also put a cushion on the back seat board, and it's called a seat pad. But when this is cut out, these corners at the top are not very smooth, and so I take my rasp, this tool here, and I just go around it like that, and I go all the way around the whole thing, and I take all the nicks and bumps out of it if it's not straight. And then I will take these corners here where this is not, they have a notch in here, and this is where a thoracic lateral goes. And they have swing away thoracic laterals or wraparound thoracic laterals. But anyway, I have to take and round this sharp corner off here. And I'll make it look like this corner down here on the bottom. Only it's rounded a little more than what the bottom corner is. And then I do that also to the plywood. And then that way they match, and when and it makes everything fit properly for the person who I make it for. And so that's about that. I'm thinking of kind of how it's a small world. I went to the Rehab Center for the Blind, and they had a class there, which was, I think it was called Manual Arts, and I built a wine rack. And I found out that I could take this wood and glue it together, and it gave me the confidence to know that I could do this type of work. But the reason I'm saying that it's kind of a small world is the man who taught that class, his name was Willis Ringen, and he used to be a VOAG teacher for FFA, or vocational agriculture, and I think the school was Valley Center, but I might be wrong on that. But anyway, when I was in high school, I had to go to Highland, Kansas for a public speaking contest, and I hated that. And here I am trying to talk up, so I'm up here now. That was one of the worst things I wanted to ever have to do, was do public speaking. But anyway, and he had two of his students, and their name was the Burger. I don't know if they were twins, but Willis Ringing was the instructor at the Rehab Center for the Blind. And these 2 boys that were his students, well, one of them won the speaking contest, and when I met Willis at the Rehab Center for the Blind, I asked him whatever happened to those 2 boys. And the one that won the speaking contest became a professor in some college somewhere. So. But anyway. And, but that really helped me when I built that wine rack out of this wood. I had a drill press, and there was a wooden lathe, but I didn't use the lathe actually for that project. But I made the drill press and was able to drill the holes and glued the wood together and finished it. And then I went to I think at that time it was called Call Area Vo-Tech School, which is Washburn Tech now. And I took a computer class, and I basically learned my computer skills from the Hadley School for the Blind, when I was at the Rehab Center for the Blind and took a course from them. And Carolyn, I think Carolyn, you're here, aren't you?
Yes.
And Carolyn was my teacher at the Rehab Center for the Blind. And so that's basically how I got my computer training. And I really feel disappointed that the Rehab Center for the Blind's not there anymore, because it really helped me. And I think I'm done.
All right. Thank you for sharing.
Julie has to go last, because she wants the last word. So I think you're up.
Thanks.
Where'd that other board? Well, I haven't passed it around.
Oh, the board, I put it over.
Table behind me here.
What was that I heard hit the floor?
Not
What am I-
everybody is seated yet, Michael. It goes that way.
I had no idea you were gonna stand up.
I put my cane on the chair over here.
Oh, yeah, here.
Yeah, it's right over here.
Yeah, right.
That table's
Yeah.
there it is. Thank you.
It's a nice board.
Right here.
Hey, Bob.
There we go, I came back.
I didn't know if that Bob was back there.
I'm like a bad penny, you know? No.
And you know Jerry Medley?
Yes.
I know Kathy does. Well, I met Jerry Medley in 1979.
You used to live in the same building with Jerry Medley.
Yeah, but
I heard about you two.
I met him 9 years before that.
I heard about you two carrying a refrigerator down the street on a cart. And I heard about you, swinging your cane around, and somebody asked you about it, you said you were just sightseeing.
Oh, good one. Learn more about KABVI at kabvi.com.